We've made it to the top 10, the creme de la creme, the best of the best, the pièces de résistance. It's my favorite 10 movies that I saw in 2018. Welcome back to the Fav41 for 2018. Well, it took a few months. That's all right, right? I'm Aaron Dicer from SiftPop.com, and I have very much enjoyed this journey with you and very much enjoyed the year we had in movies last year, which honestly, having seen the first 3 months of movies in 2019 by this point, what a difference in years so far. Glad that we had this one. There are movies in my top 10 that came out in the first 3 months of 2018, over a year ago. This is going to be a good time counting down from number 10 to number 1. Let's do it. In at number 10 is one of those movies that came out early in 2018. And yes, I know in England it came out in 2017. Imagine that. But here in the States, it was award eligible this year. So it is on my list at number 10, Paddington 2. I love this bear. It's possible, quite possible, England, that you have replaced my other English bear of my childhood, Winnie the Pooh, with a new one. He is just so great. And again, the purity of the optimism here is so wonderful that he's expressing in what he does. Rightfully, Hugh Grant getting a lot of attention for his role as kind of the bad guy here, the villain in this one. He's doing some really fun work. But just overall, this is just a great, pleasant, optimistic movie experience with lots of laughs and lots of heart. And it had to make my top 10. Did I say there were 2 that came out early in 2018 that made my top 10? Because there's actually 3. And this is another one, Black Panther. Wow, did Marvel knock it out of the park with this. Immediately one of my favorite Marvel movies. The way that this movie not only just kind of hand waves or nods at African culture and those kind of things, but rather makes it an integral part of the DNA of what's going on here is so beautiful and wonderful and culturally engaging in a way that I just found amazing. And that is on top of the fact that they're making a great Marvel movie. They're presenting us with great superheroes and characters doing amazing things. Does it fall into some of the Marvel movie traps of, punching fights and same versus same and that kind of stuff? Yes, it absolutely does. But there's so much good going on here that I'm very willing to ignore that, because this is one of those movies that will stay with me for a long time and I cannot wait to watch again. And in a big shift from Paddington 2 and Black Panther, we go to First Reformed. Not a feel-good movie. This is a movie that makes you wrestle. This is a wrestling movie, and that also is exciting to me. Ethan Hawke doing really incredible work here. This is my favorite Ethan Hawke performance of all time, and that's saying something because he's given some good ones, lots and lots of good ones, but what he's doing here is so intricate and at times internal that I found it fascinating. I also identify with the authenticity of it in what he is wrestling with, what he is trying to decide, in this case about the idea of the environment and how that shakes us as humanity when we start to think about it. And where this movie leads this character is not only fascinating, but risky. And that to me is another level of reason I enjoy it. The last scene is the make or break for this movie. What happens in the final moments of this movie will either leave you gasping for air in a way that just is going to ponder it for months to come, or it will leave you shaking your head like, why did you ruin the good movie I was enjoying? I really think it can do both. I think which it did for me, that first one. I have thought about this movie a lot since it came out, and I think that is a testament to how great it is. On the cusp of Endgame, let's talk about Infinity War. It was my number 7 last year. I say this with the Avengers movies almost every time, and I think more elevated than ever before. Let me say it again. How do you pull this off? How are you making this even come close to working? The fact that you have all of these characters with different personalities, different backstories, different motivating factors, and you're putting them all in the same movie with a common goal or a common understanding, introducing elements of them to each other in new and interesting ways, and always understanding that the character comes first. Marvel has blown my mind with their Avengers initiative that they have pulled off over the last 10 years. It has been such an experience, and everything is building to the sequel to the movie we're talking about right now, Infinity War. And to be able to put this movie out, knowing that it's kind of a two-parter, in knowing that there's more story to be told, but to structure it in the way they did was perfect, because this movie exists completely on its own as a story. Now, does that mean there aren't any hanging threads? Of course there are hanging threads. Does that mean there aren't any obvious things that are going to change? Of course there are. That's not the point. The point is you are told a complete story. Some of the greatest movies ever made have hanging threads or things you know may be resolved in the real world later, but they are telling you something about something. And what this movie is telling us about the idea of good versus evil, about the idea of optimism and belief versus pessimism and nihilism. It's mind-blowing to me that Marvel is doing all of this on both a practical way and also a philosophical way. My mind is blown, and it deserves to be in the top 10. And we're up to number 6, which is the third movie in my top 10 that came out before April 1st last year. The third movie in my top 10 that did so. It's A Quiet Place. Way to go, John Krasinski. Way to do it, man. I love this movie in so many ways. Let's start with the performances. Emily Blunt is giving an incredibly tense performance here. John Krasinski is doing great work here. The kids they got are doing amazing work here. Then let's talk about the world building. The idea is so fascinating and interesting. I don't know that it makes complete sense when you walk it all the way down the path, but it makes enough sense to hold this world together and to be able to suspend your disbelief on some of that stuff. It is beautifully shot. Krasinski obviously understands tension, understands pace, understands where an audience is and where to take them. And at the end of the day, let's just talk about the monsters. They're scary. They're interesting. You kind of want to know more about them, but you never want to see them again. This is one of those movies that, to me, belongs so firmly in that suspense thriller genre that I love, that I'm just going to be there on the edge of my seat the entire way. I don't know that I've ever had an experience like that in a movie theater where the sound, even in the theater, played into the feeling of the movie. It's an incredible piece of work, and in at number 6. So we head on to the top 5 with an animated movie, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Who saw this being so good? Hey, that's fine. You can say you did. I didn't. I saw it being fine and fun and interesting. Of course, I don't watch trailers, so that's probably it. You may have had a better clue than me by watching the trailers. This took me for such a wonderful ride. The art style on this is interesting, right? Because it is both the biggest positive of the movie. Well, that's not quite true, but one of the biggest positives of the movie, and also probably the only big negative of the movie. It is unique and interesting in a fun way, but it is also distracting with some of the choices it makes in the animation. But overall, it's a plus, right? Like if you put it all in and you shake it up, you're like, no, that's a good thing. I like what they did with the animation here. Voice performances are incredible. The cast is incredible. Cast of characters is incredible. And the way it brings its message of the idea that superheroes are something we can find in ourselves is brilliant and beautiful and engages me in the Spider-Verse in a way that I don't know I ever knew I needed to be, but can't imagine ever not being again. And that says something about this movie. You guys know me pretty well at this point. You know a lot of these top 5 aren't going to be a surprise. Boy, did I weigh Spider-Verse versus Incredibles 2 for quite a while, and ended up with Incredibles 2 coming in at number 4. The bias is real, guys. I love Pixar, and so I don't know how much that affects when I'm thinking about comparing and where to put what to put where. To be honest, I don't know. What I do know is the most adrenaline. This is actually not true. I still have a movie to come. But some of the most action adrenaline I felt this year in theaters were during some of these Incredible 2 things. Brad Bird just gets action, and he understands the power of animation to present action to us in a way that live action movies often can't or aren't willing to try to, go that extra mile to do. That stuff on this, we'll just call it, Elastigirl's bike, not to give anything away, is some of the most creative, interesting, and mind-gasping, is that a word? Mind-gasping stuff I saw in theaters. Add to that the fact that I was totally on board with the idea of this family figuring out the next step of their life, what it means to be a family, what it means to work together, understand your own gifts, understand your own role and how to put that, and what it means to change roles. The Mr. Incredible and stuff in this I thought was really fascinating. And then you've just got the cleverness in the humor, the cleverness in the way the powers are used. Some of these new supers are very interesting. The portal superpower was fascinating in the way that they decided to use that. I just had such a good time with this, and I loved it. And it's a Pixar movie, and it's Brad Bird, so it's probably not much of a surprise that it made it to number 4. Well, we've made it to the top 3, and before we get into talking about Fallout, I have to say, I think there may have been 3 masterpiece movies made in 2018. These 3 movies, I truly believe, could be looked back upon 20 years from now as classic masterpieces of what it means to tell great stories in film. Of course, who knows what, 2040 looks like, but I think it could be very interesting to look back on these. I cannot believe that Tom Cruise in the Mission Impossible series has become as amazing movie making as it has. It's a testament to the drive of Tom Cruise to do these things. A lot of people talk about the stunts and the action, and I get it. Like, that's mind-blowing stuff. But beyond that, to have Christopher McQuarrie understand how to incorporate that into an engaging story, an engaging, let's just say, rail, to keep the train on the rails as it's doing all this incredible stuff. This is cinematic adrenaline, and is the most adrenaline I got this year watching a movie in theaters. It's phenomenal work. Rebecca Ferguson is so perfect for this franchise. I love the way the character work is going here and what they're doing. I know there was a moment, maybe 2 or 3 movies ago, where Tom Cruise was thinking about handing off the baton to Jeremy Renner, and it never happened. And while I feel bad for Renner, he's doing fine. And I'm glad. I'm glad that we are getting these movies, and it's fascinating to me. And I can't wait to see what else, with 2 more on the way, that they're going to do. But Fallout is just almost a perfect film for McQuarrie and Cruise, and I think will be looked at as a masterpiece. Oh, and I love movies. I love movies. And you're seeing that now as we get to my favorite of 2018. First Man is a masterpiece. Damien Chazelle is solidifying himself as the filmmaker to watch. Him and Ryan Coogler are like 1A and 1B for me right now. I think he is working on a level of technical mastery that no one else is. And I mean that. The things he's doing with his attention to detail in some of this space work, his attention to detail in the way he is using the visuals to give the emotion of the story he wants. I can only chalk up First Man's complete disappearance from our conversation culturally to the fact that people wanted Apollo 13, to the fact that maybe there's a little bit of tiring of Chazelle after La La Land. I cannot understand it beyond those 2 things, how people aren't absolutely losing their minds over this movie. What he is doing here is telling us a tight, confined, nerve-wracking story about the trauma of the journey of man. He's relating it to us going to the moon way before technology should have allowed us to go to the moon, by the way. We were way early on this one, but we wanted to do it, and so we unrolled our duct tape and made it happen. And Chazelle's ability to convey that is phenomenal. But he tells it not only about our journey to the moon, but our journey through trauma as human beings relating to Neil Armstrong losing a child. And that parallel is so perfectly put together in this movie that I about lost my mind afterwards. It is pure movie making, pure storytelling on a level that it's hard for me to understand how people are missing this one. And I don't know if it's expectations. I don't know if it's my own bias. All that stuff is certainly possible. Ryan Gosling is great here. The internal nature of this performance I thought was absolutely stunning. Claire Foy is wonderful as well. The surrounding parts are great, but most importantly, the structure and the beauty of this story never lets up and never lets you go, never gives you an escape. Even the personal stuff, even the stuff that has nothing to do with action or going to the moon is so tightly shot that you are never given a rest from that claustrophobia of trauma. And man, Chazelle is good. Man, I can't wait to see what he does next. And yes, this is a great movie. And here we are. It's no surprise if you followed my opinions on film that I thought Roma was the best movie made last year. Probably one of the best 20 movies ever made, in my opinion, which is, represented in my favorite 20 movies my favorite 100 movies of all time list that you can check out at my Letterboxd. But the work that's being done here on a personal level with him recreating his universe, the work that's being done here on a metaphorical level with the foreshadowing in this movie is brilliant, constant, and beautiful. That's before we talk about his brilliance as a cinematographer. Alfonso Cuarón shot this movie too, in the way every frame in this movie could be put on a wall. Every frame is beautiful. Every moment is gorgeous. And the way again, if you want to hear my full thoughts on this, the podcast is probably the best way to go. Just look up the Roma episode. That's where I really go into detail about the foreshadowing and the metaphor and the intellectual philosophical work he's doing here is beyond my comprehension. As far as what I mean, like how he would do that. The beauty of it is within my comprehension and your comprehension that we can pick up on it and understand it and feel it even more than that. It takes you to this world and it lets you feel what's going on here. This is a movie that has impact on people. This is a movie that means something about what it means to be a caretaker, what it means to love, what it means to be a mother, what it means to understand that every life on this planet has a story that's going on. And in the same moment you are experiencing the greatest joy, someone else not far from you is experiencing the worst thing they've ever experienced in their life. And just the idea of the span of humanity that is captured in this movie is breathtaking, heart-wrenching, and at the same time encouraging. This is a piece of magic that Cuarón has done here, and I am very, very confident that this will be looked back on as a masterpiece. It is my favorite movie of 2018. There you go. The Fav41 has been complete. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for watching the videos. Thanks for hanging out. Go to SiftPop.com if you want to see more. You can search for SiftPop in your podcast player if you want to listen to the podcast. Lots of fun stuff going on in the SiftPop universe this year. We're very excited. Thank you for your membership. As a member of SiftPop, you get lots of fun stuff like monthly video hangouts, basically monthly video AMAs where you can ask anything you want to about movies, pop culture, SiftPop, me, whatever. That all happens every month. Bonus episodes of the podcast. You get your own podcast feed for SiftPop where you get bonus episodes every week, or almost every week, I should say. I don't want to guarantee every week, but we try every week to get you a bonus episode in that podcast feed. So lots of fun stuff going on there. You can check that out at patreon.com/SiftPop. And thank you so much for how you have made SiftPop grow. It means a lot that you would actually put your own dollars to that at Patreon. That's mind-blowing. Thank you. I really do appreciate it. If you want to hang out more with me, I'm Aaron Dicer. You can search me on all the socials, Instagram. Twitter is probably where I'm most active. So if you have a Twitter account, just search for AARONDICER. And SiftPop is spelled SIFTPOP. If you want to search for us as well. As always, I'll give you a few extra seconds to hit subscribe. Just click the logo on the screen.